My name is Kevin Harrington. I live in Atlanta. I work for a company called Alcon. I work in R&D. If you wear contact lenses, you may wear our product. Really good. I'm working on something to make it better. Anyway, but I grew up in the South Shore here, so it's a pleasure to be back in Massachusetts. Thanks to all of you for the work effort coming here today. I have sorts of things.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Carrie Penman. I'm the Chief Risk and Compliance Officer for IBECC, based out of Portland, Oregon. We're actually a software company that is now starting to use a lot of AI, owned by private equity. So I'm very interested in your session today. I am from Pittsburgh and started my career as an ethics and compliance officer at Westinghouse, and have been doing this for about 30 years, part of IBECC for a long time. It's a great experience I hope you're having here, and really looking forward to your session. So welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria Sonnen. I'm playing a special role this year as the AI judge. I'm not AI, I'm human, but I'm sitting in on all of the AI sessions because we are going to be giving a special prize, lots of our Northrop Grumman, to the best AI session. So in my day job, when I'm not doing IBECC, I work in ethics and business conduct for BAE Systems. We're a very, very large multinational aerospace and defense company. I am from Massachusetts, but I live in New Hampshire right now. And I've been with IBECC in one form or another since 2009, and I love it. And this year has been fabulous being back in person, and I'm so glad you all came here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's introduce our two online judges. Can you introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Loretti. I'm excited to be here. I am an in-house attorney for an insurance company, and I also teach compliance law at the University of Connecticut.
Excellent. Thanks, Melissa.
And Vera's up there.
Vera?
Yeah. Hello, my name is Vera Chiripanova. I'm calling from Italy today. It's already 10 p.m. here, and if I sound silly, you know why. That is happening. That's my third case today. It's my second time with the competition. It's a great initiative. I really enjoy the cases. I'm a practitioner. I have spent in ethics and compliance at least 16 years. And AI is gaining a lot of interest and traction here in Europe. That's why I'm on this case.
Excellent. Vera, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us, especially being late there in Italy. As soon as I find the instructions, I will read them to you. Okay, very good. So let me just kind of read through the instructions and then we'll begin, okay? In this part of the competition, you are taking on a fictional business identity, assigning a fictional business identity to the five of us, the judges. Please make sure everyone knows who you are and who they are before you begin. You will have 25 minutes with a 5-minute cushion to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem and to recommend a solution that passes muster on all three counts. During this time, teams will be uninterrupted. When you're finished, the judges will ask you questions for about 20 minutes. During the Q&A, both you and judges will stay in character. After the Q&A, the judges will give you feedback outside of the role-playing simulation. Some important things to keep in mind. The ethical aspects of your analysis are the most important part. However, these should be described in a simple, practical, and common sense fashion. Using technical, philosophical terminology or basing your argument on religious or theological grounds will be considered a serious weakness. Similarly, any member of the team reading his or her part will also be considered a major mistake. Although you may use notes during the presentation, every member of the team must have some sort of speaking role. Do you all have any questions? Very good. Why don't we go ahead and begin? Thank you.
Thank you. Data centers run amok. Protect our citizens. This is a snippet from a a protest that happened, and it was organized in Virginia when Compass in data centers wanted to set up a data center, and activists and citizens were sternly against it. Ultimately, it got a lot of bad reputation for Compass, but after a period of 27 hours of negotiation, they did pass the construction because it brought in $40 billion of revenue or investment in that particular region. We, the consultants from the University of Pittsburgh and your trusted consultants, are here to present a case to the board members of Blackstone Incorporated, a large private equity and asset management firm in the world. And our team is comprised of me, Vishal Dasgupta, who has a background in technology and sustainability. With me, I have my colleagues, Akshay Agarwal, with a technology background, Kartikeya Shukla, who spent multiple years in the chemical industry before his MBA. Namrata Duara has worked with HR as an HR with people from diverse backgrounds. And Devesh Udasi has a background in technology product. Along with us, we also were able to get perspectives of three key industry experts, Nathan Franklin, who is the president of Pacifico Energy, Cassie Eager, who is the ESG lead at ANSYS, and Lance Mitchell, a senior director at Dell Technologies. And today, we are going to talk about the environmental ethos of data centers in the Gen AI economy. As a part of our agenda, we are going to take a quick look at the executive summary, discuss and dissect the problem statement a little better, talk about the strategic framework that we deployed while analyzing the situation for Blackstone, and go over the industry and the company overview, talk about certain nuances that are pretty important when it comes to looking at the the environmental ethos. And in terms of formulating the considerations and recommendations, obviously we looked at financial aspects, ethical aspects, and legal aspects, and we are going to wrap it up with a summary of our final recommendations. So let's get started. While data center industry has significant opportunities of value creation, it definitely does cause a lot of harm to the world. This industry is expected to grow at a 9.6% CAGR in terms of growth, and with a market size growth prediction of $418 billion by 2030. However, in the past, compared to the 2021 baseline, there has been a 20% increase in power demands. The global co-location industry is expected to see a 15.2% increase when it comes to the energy demand. And if we add in the power usage that is required to fuel the AI economy, so essentially to run the AI-based models, it is going to add another additional 15%. Now, in order to make sure that Blackstone as an organization, as a private equity firm, is able to invest into this value-creating opportunity and reap benefits, but essentially do that in a way that does not bring negative attention, and do that in a manner which is ethical and which is for the greater good. We've looked at this problem from three aspects: financial, and within the financial aspects, capital expenditures and operating expenditures have been considered to be important. When it comes to ethical perspectives, performance, availability of data, and data security are important. And when it comes to legal, regulatory disclosures are something that needs to be considered. The synthesis of the analysis was that strategic focus needs to be made into sustainable energy, customer relationships, compliance, and operational excellence. With that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Devesh, to continue.
Thanks, Vishal. I'm going to set some context over here. As Vishal rightly mentioned, 57% of the data center owners at this point in time are trusting AI to make operational decisions. In addition to that, basis Google's latest news, after implementing AI into the data centers, there was about a reduction of about 40% in the total power consumption in that one particular data centers that they actually tested this entire technology in. We're at a crossroads over here. On one side, do we trust the data centers to make decisions that will lead to operational efficiencies to ensure that from a sustainable point of view, there is cohesion? Or on the other side, do we invest in those particular data centers which are leading to the case discussion that we are providing today? This is where we bring up the ethical dilemma over here. Do we invest in data centers as Blackstone to capture operational and financial gain? Or do we save the planet from these power-hungry and unsustainable data sources as well? How are we going to go about it? Is that first, I'm going to provide an industry analysis along with an analysis of Blackstone as well, followed by Bishal, who's going to be taking up financial considerations. Then Karthik and Namrata are going to be taking up the ethical considerations. And eventually, Akshay is going to spend some light on legal directives that we need to focus on before we eventually go on and give our priority recommendations as well at the end of the presentation. When we speak about the industry, which is real estate and data centers, we see there's an increasing demand because of the limited resources and rising demand as well. The industry is expanding at this point in time, and because of which we've limited our entire research in two critical regions, that is the North and South America. And even in North America, we're going to be spending quite some time discussing how North Virginia, the data center, which is specifically based out of North Virginia, which produces a power strength of 2,132 megawatts in a particular year. That's the original capacity of this. We're going to be focusing on that particular data center. Additionally, because of this, because of the expansion of the industry, because of the rise of the construction costs and the rising demand, we're also seeing a substantial increase in the kilowatt consumption and the price associated with that kilowatt consumption as well. As opposed to 2021 to 2022, where the cost for 250 to 500 kilowatt was about $150 to $200. Today, we are seeing that in Singapore to about $300 to $450. In addition to that, there is a significant amount of increase in the inventory also. In Brazil itself, one particular data center saw about 127% of growth in the inventory from 2020 to 2022. With the increase in the inventory, with the growth in these particular data centers, we're also seeing that even though the industry is expanding, there is a loss in the amount that is available in vacancy and the availability of power as well. As you can see in the FLAP region, that is Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, and Paris region, which is the biggest region in Europe for data center availability. We are seeing a decline of 17% to 12.7% in availability just in 1 year itself. In addition to that, of course, the amount and reduction in the power consumption, that's also reducing by 8.2% in Virginia itself and 17% in the FLAP region. This is also being substituted by a significant amount of net absorption, which is increasing on a daily basis. Now, while all this is being evaluated as growth in multiple parts of the world, one critical region that is being left out that we're going to put forth in our recommendations as well is the Nordic region, is the region in the top part of next to the Arctic region, where Sweden, Norway, Denmark. These countries are included in the Nordic regions, and they are not exploring the expansion of data centers over there, specifically because of the regulatory guidelines. And this becomes a major challenge as well. Now, how does Blackstone come into the picture, and how can Blackstone leverage as opportunities in this expanding market? Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. As we're aware, Blackstone at this particular point in time acquired an 80% of ownership interest in a joint venture with Digital Reality. Now, this is mega because of the amount of money that's going in this particular investment, and at the same time, the expansion into hyperscale data centers into three metro areas and 2 continents as well. How Blackstone is leveraging from a partnership like that is it's offering itself into the market from a point of view of scalability and also through strategic partnerships. Not only with existing firms in the real estate industry, which Blackstone itself had its predominant business now before stepping into the digital reality, it was a real estate agent, and how it's advancing itself right now is through strategic partnerships with other real estate agencies and construction agencies as well. One more aspect that we are evaluating for Blackstone at this particular point of time, it's evaluation of RNG as an alternate source, and its strategic partnership with big RNG players at this point in time as well. Blackstone also has a very large land bank, which essentially means that it has a lot of land under its gamut to explore scaling of these data centers further and further, not only in Europe, but in North American region and in South America as well. In fact, Blackstone is also evaluating a different market in the Indian subcontinent, with them building up a new particular a data center in India as well at this point in time. But opportunities like this have specific amount of risk associated with that. With an increase in the size of the data centers, with these hyperscale data centers, comes the increase in power demand, which also has specific environmental implications, due to which the community and society that is built around the data center loses faith in the market altogether. With the environmental impact, of course, there are certain regulatory hurdles that we have to address as well. Akshay is going to shed some light on these particular regulatory hurdles a little later in the presentation. And also, when you're increasing, of course, there are chances of data breaches, there are security and other aspects that needs to be considered at this point in time, which can be heavily, penalties can be levied on that heavily, which also becomes a critical pointer to consider as a risk from an economic distribution and operation perspective. I'm now going to hand it back to Vishal to cover some finances.
Thank you. So to continue with the financial considerations, we believe that understanding the attributes of classic infrastructure investing is important. So as some of us might know, that this industry requires a lot of capital intensive investments upfront. It also requires essential services, but in terms of cash yields, it tends to be more profitable in the long run, provides consistent cash flows, and also high EBITDA margins. And when we look at it from a portfolio diversification strategy, it also provides risk protection and then cushion for that upfront capital expenditure upfront. Because it is a highly capital intensive industry, it also possesses certain barriers to entry, I'd say benefits. This industry essentially serves multiple other industries in the form of providing data center services, such as to telecom, transport, healthcare, and education, and multiple others. One last point, it does also offer steady and stable returns compared to commodity price markets, and there isn't really a lot of fluctuations in this particular industry. Now, if we take a look at some of the research that has been done by McKinsey & Company, we will see that in the past couple of years, there has been an average 4 to 5% decrease in average IRR in the targets. And if we look back in the past 10 years, that can be as large as 20 to 40%. The second chart shows that, as you can see, there has been a lot of fluctuations due to COVID. However, most of the infrastructure sectors, except the renewable energy, which is the light blue on the bottom, everything else, all the other industries such as utilities, transportation, oil and gas, have sort of come back to pre-pandemic levels. Now, the key takeaway is that asset management organizations such as ours needs to consider these changes and fluctuations and make a better analysis of the risk and return profile. Investors should also look for deals in niche markets with the help of multiple strategies such as integrations, carve-outs, roll-ups, or bolt-on strategies. Moving on, this page essentially talks about the fact that despite all the tumultuous facts that we've just seen in the previous slide, despite all the changes in the infrastructure investing, investment in data centers still continues to be a lucrative position from a financial perspective. As you can see, the co-location services, which is essentially data centers which can be rented out, is expected to have a CAGR of 6%, that's compounded annual growth rate, and hyperscalers can have expected to have a CAGR of 4%. The power consumption, though, for co-location companies is expected to increase over the years to a total of 35 gigawatts by 2030. Now, what does that mean for us? We feel that given the fact that Blackstone wants to build or invest roughly $25 billion into this particular industry, into the co-location or data centers industry, there are 4 other considerations that need to be made in parallel, and which include first evaluating sustainable or green energy by signing power purchase agreements, looking at cooling and energy consumption technologies such as liquid cooling, constructing prefab or modular data structure. So investing in organizations or companies which have modular architecture or which provide modular architectural design and leverage edge computing. This page essentially talks about those 4 industries in terms of sustainable energy. With the help of investments in sustainable energy, we would be able to address intermittency and backup power. These are 2 key problems that are usually seen when it comes to data centers. When it comes to cooling and energy consumptions, 2 technologies that have proven to be helpful are immersion cooling, which essentially uses liquid coolant to cool these data centers. Prefab and modular architecture. This is something that even Dell Technologies is working on, where they are trying to build servers and centers which have a modular, I'd say, design. So essentially, what you can think of it is Lego blocks, where you can scale up or scale across as and when there's a need. And then edge computing is one last key point that needs to be considered when it comes to investment opportunities, wherein essentially investing in hardware that brings such technologies closer to consumers. For example, let's say it is expected that there's going to be laptops which is going to be able to run some of these AI models on the laptop instead of having to, run it at a big data center. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Karthikeya and Namrata to talk us through the ethical considerations.
Thank you, Vishal. So data wings, they form the backbone of our digital economy. From even small grocery shops to big corporates, they are relying on digitization for ease of operations. As of now, globally, there are like only 50% of the people are connected to the internet. But even then, the energy demand just from the data centers, not from the entire IT infrastructure, from data centers alone, they contribute to 2% of the global energy demand. To give the context to 2%, that is what entire aviation industry takes care of. That's also 2%. And looking at the trend from last 10 years, the energy demand of data centers has been doubling, like more than doubling in every 4 years, making it the fastest growing carbon footprint sector. Now comes the ethical dilemma. How can we scale sustainably to meet the fast growing and much needed demand of data centers? So we are looking through 3 segments. That is the capital expenditure, CapEx, and location, the opportunities from green technologies, and infrastructure and supply chain. So at CapEx and location, as of now, that most of the data centers are required to be in vicinity or proximity with the residential areas. And the reason is that we need lower latency. But as most of the residential areas are located in warmer climates, the need of cooling is more. That is the reason that's one of the reasons that companies are not currently exploring Nordic countries or even high latitude locations because of the latency issue. Now, green tech opportunities like Shall just mention RNG, that's renewable natural gas, and other renewable energy sources which are intermittent. AI, digital twin for energy efficiency and resource utilization have also proven to significantly reduce the water usage effectiveness as well as the power usage effectiveness. Now coming to the last segment, infrastructure and supply chain. With how the rate of data centers has been increasing, it is becoming increasingly challenging to manage and procure hardware to cope up with the demand. Hence, there is a specific need to take care of the waste or the older hardware. So we need to invest into electronic recycling as well to look into a longer sustainable life cycle of data center itself. So we will dig down into the CapEx and the location segment here. So with today's data-driven and more complex industry, the luxury of time has been lost. So latency is something which is totally undesirable. Hence, the proximity of data centers is vital as per of current technological trends. That's why we see that data centers have already started replacing communities, farms, and forest. Now you look into the one more interesting fact that more than half of the world's data centers are located in United States alone. And in United States, we have California, Texas, Florida. These are the ones which have the major share of it. These regions are not known for their colder climates, which again goes back to that we do need energy. So how do we do that? As we have mentioned in previous slides, that artificial intelligence-driven digital twin technologies, as well as liquid cooling technologies, these technologies can allow us to rapidly reduce our energy consumption while maintaining the same productivity. Third one is the local and international laws. as per geography, different laws require different security measures that can be for firewall as well as for the physical security measures. They also add up to a significant cost fraction. So this is also one factor which comes under the picture that we have to take care of. So the overall image is that it is important to leverage and invest into technologies to optimize our power usage effectiveness and to reduce or most likely get zero of water usage effectiveness. Now I will hand it over to Namrata to take it ahead.
Thank you, Karthik. Continuing our discussion on the sustainable and ethical management of data center operations. So first, let us look into how green data technologies can be implemented into data center operations and its impact on expenditure. So as the demand for data increases, there's a need to rethink how we are powering our technologies, as we discussed earlier. So monitoring KPIs such as power usage effectiveness and carbon usage effectiveness is very critical to keep a track of our carbon footprint and minimize energy consumption levels. And also moving away from fossil fuels, traditional fossil fuels, and more into renewable, like we discussed earlier, that is solar, wind, and hydro will efficiently help in cooling processes of the data centers. And talking about the digital twins in more detail, so this is a technology that offers a virtual model and creates a simulation of data center operations that helps to keep in track of resource management and allocation in centers. And this also enhances the real-time monitoring and efficiency of operations. With the implementation of predictive analytics, it helps in creating more proactive maintenance schedules that will help to minimize downtime and operation expenditures by great lengths. And also moving into a digital twin technology will also come into strengthening the sustainable aspects of supply chain and infrastructure within this data center operations. And also another implication of AI is basically with the predictive modeling that again emphasizes on resource management and energy optimization. So with new technologies such as smart metering technologies to monitor your water usage, and also advanced purification methods can be implemented for recycling and repurposing of water instead of depending on new resources. Yes, so moving on to the need for sustainability for supply chain networks and infrastructure management in data centers. So it's very critical to monitor what resources are being implemented in your operations and keeping a track of your suppliers through eco certifications and ESG principles, which are very critical for ensuring that all the resources and equipments are contributing to a greener life cycle of the data center operations. So one of the examples here is a e-waste plus company, which partners with data centers and emphasizes on recycling of technologies and hardware equipments within the data centers. Also, the principles of circular economy is very important to be implemented within the infrastructure management, right from the sourcing of resources and equipments to the end of life management of resources and assets. It's very important to maintain a continuous life cycle assessments. And also, again, investing and partnering with e-recyclers is very essential for repurposing and refurbishing of hardware resources. So leading giants such as Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are already joining alliances such as the Circular Electronics Partnership, which aims to minimize e-wastage and promoting a circularity in the electronics industry. Now I'll hand over the charge to Akshay.
Thank you. So I'll try to bring a legal perspective to the problem statement that we're dealing with today. And so if you observe this particular graph in general, if you see that the Asia Pacific region and the Europe regions are regions which do not really offer a lot of resistance to government intervention related to sustainability laws, they are very comfortable with government intervening with sustainability laws. But when you see North America in specific, they are not really open to government intervention related to sustainability laws. So where does this resistance stem from? So there are a few factors that we feel have led to this particular resistance. One being that there is a huge technical knowledge gap between the ones working in the industry and the ones who make the policies. So there's a lot of distrust involved. Second, it just reflects a broader cultural attitude towards government intervention related to laws related to sustainability. And third, if you see the map above, US in general does not have a structured central federal law in place for sustainability. They have sustainability laws which are divided based on sectors and different states. So not having a unified law also makes a lot of difference. Can I go to the next slide? So since our company has our data centers set up across the North America region and Europe, we would like to see what the differences are there in terms of compliance, which we need to be aware of in terms of setting up data centers and data center privacy and data laws related to it. So in terms of that, in the US, like I mentioned, they do not have a overarching federal law in place. They have sustainability laws that have been divided into based on states and sectors, which makes it very complicated for companies that are operating not only outside, but also within the states, within the United States of America. If a company has to be compliant across all different states, it gets very messy in terms of legal aspects. In terms of residing the data domestically, there is no general law that has been mandated in the US, which requires the company to have the data stored domestically. It offers flexibility in terms of transferring data internationally, but it also increases or raises concerns related to data privacy once the data crosses the international borders. In terms of fines also, the US does not have a lot of it's given a lot of leeway to the companies in terms of the amount of data protection laws they have set in place. So if we compare it to Europe, we can say that the fines or the penalties that are applied to companies for data breaches is negligible. Also, in terms of notifications after a data breach, the companies as of now are not really responsible for notifying the end users about data breaches. So let's see what European Union does. So European Union has a specific framework in place called the General Data Protection Regulation, which is called the GDPR. And they have that set in forth for all the sectors across all the countries that are present in the European Union. In terms of notifying users once a data breach is made, the GDPR mandates all the companies to inform the users within 72 hours to avoid fines. In terms of fines as well, the GDPR is very stringent and can apply fines to up to 20 million pounds or 4% of the annual global turnover of the company, whichever is higher. So when we compare these laws, we see that since our data centers are placed in both the US and the European Union, we need to navigate this legal complexity very carefully because we can see the differences in the laws that have been set into place in the States and the European Union. So we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need to be compliant with our legally across all the regions. Can I change? So we have come up with 4 strategic areas where we can technically and legally navigate this complexity in terms of laws. So the first one we'd like to discuss is that we need to ensure that we have a long-term tenure in terms of the locations where we decide to place our data centers. The long-term tenure ensures that it future-proofs us from legal obligations in the future. In terms of customer relationships and data center designs, modern data centers need to move away from the current design structure, which is completely on-prem. They need to move from the on-prem design to a more hybrid structure, which is on-prem hardware structure and multiple cloud environments, which has network applications. And also it utilizes or virtualizes across multiple private and public cloud platforms. In terms of compliance, we need to take care of the fact that we are complying with or we are adhering with all the environmental laws that have been set into place in the regions where we exist, and also take care of all the health and safety protocols that have been set into place. By focusing on, connecting and by leveraging legal experts throughout the cycle and by conducting environmental impact assessments throughout our cycle and being vigilant about it and staying ahead of the curve and sort of future-proofing our scalability is what can set us apart and can lead us to become industry leaders in terms of data center marketing. So our recommendations today are a holistic approach which focuses on 4 key pillars. The first one is sustainable energy and infrastructure. We recommend Blackstone to invest in green cooling technologies and transition to renewable energy sources. Investing in e-waste management and conducting carbon usage effectiveness and power usage effectiveness will allow us to invest more towards sustainability and also ensure that our operations are sustainable in nature. It also allows us to align with industry leaders like Apple, who have set ambitious carbon neutrality goals that is set for 2030. In terms of customer relationships like for Blackstone is paramount. So by providing them customizable solutions and being transparent about how much energy is being used and how much environmental harm is being done by the client's work is going to be paramount. By being very open to them about how much energy is getting used through their operations, we build trust within the community and show our ethical leadership. In terms of compliance and regulatory requirement, like I mentioned earlier, is very important to stay connected with legal experts related to the compliance laws across the global regions where we exist, and also conducting environmental impact assessments continuously to see that we are actually doing what we are selling. And in terms of operational excellence, implementing digital twins and predictive analytics ensures operational excellence, since operations are of vital importance for our success in terms of the bottom line. Investing in high-tech technologies like digital twins and predictive analytics ensures that we're not just only focusing on the bottom line, but also making a good environmental impact. So by focusing on these 4 key pillars, we can definitely become an industry leader in the data center industry and pave the way for other companies in this particular industry. So let's seize this opportunity today and try to make meaningful change through all these recommendations. So thank you so much for that time.
Very
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Could you go back to the recommendations?
Sure.
This might be easier to ask questions. Is that all right?
So my first question, what makes the issue you're discussing an ethical issue?
Sure. So the issue that is at our hand that we have taken is the environmental ethos of data centers in generative AI is a very unique ethical dilemma because it is multifaceted. So first, in terms of the ethical dilemma is whether to be more responsible sustainably or to focus on the bottom line. So here is where the dilemma comes. We all know that data centers are driving innovation and economic prosperity, but at the same time, we also know that data centers consume a lot of energy, cause a lot of degradation of resources, and can cause carbon emissions and therefore environmental degradation. However, this is not only restricted towards sustainable angle or the environmental side of things, it also boils down to how much impact it is making towards the society. So data center operations or the locations where data centers are placed can definitely cause a lot of issues because it can displace a lot of indigenous populations, it can cause water usage consumptions, it can degrade the land where it's being located. So all these issues, but we also know the benefits of what comes with the data center. So that is the ethical issue that we've been bringing to light today.
Yeah, and as Akshay mentioned, I think he shed a lot of light on the environmental aspect of it. I think the other side of the coin is the fact that investment in data centers is lucrative, and an asset management company or a private equity company is in the industry to be able to make money and make like good returns from their investments. So Blackstone definitely wants to seize this opportunity, but then as per our recommendations, if you incorporate these, you would also be able to do it in a sustainable manner. So that it's not just a financial gain, but it's also an environmental gain, not just for Blackstone, but for the rest of the world.
Very good. Are there any current similar emerging technologies that pose a similar, perhaps very similar challenge in terms of the trade-offs and the value?
So if I understand the question, then are there other technologies which have similar, I'd say, conflicts of interest?
Yeah, other examples that are, yes.
Yes, so I would say that, for example, EVs, from a operation perspective, yes, they use a lot of, green energy electricity, which is better than being able to use fuels. But the way these products are built at this point in time, I think it's not sustainable because, for example, BYD, which is an electric car manufacturer in China, they have operations which are vast in scale, and there are similar concerns there as well, because as people want to make that switch to sustainable energy and want to really do good, but when it comes to the production of that technology or of that car, that isn't really sustainable. So I think that there is such a certain dilemma around that technology as well.
Adding to that, there's also an ethical issue which goes into the electric vehicles, which is that if we consider that everyone is, too simply put, that if we say no to fossil fuels, we are saying yes to mining. And why mining? The reason is that electric cars, they use batteries. Right now, the best battery technology that we have is lithium-ion battery. Lithium-ion battery requires two critical components, like lithium and cobalt. 95% of global lithium is in South America, which does have problems such as inhuman labor practices and other certain issues. They also have geopolitical uncertainties, which does not make it a good investment opportunity as of now. Cobalt, around, if I'm correct, it's more than 75% comes from Democratic Republic of Congo, which is known for its inhuman labor practices, which makes it a big ethical dilemma. How Apple solved that issue was, Apple made a callback feature of their products like iPhones. So they give incentives to users to give back an iPhone so that they can recycle. And now all the new Apple watches, they have 100% recycled cobalt. So there are ways to do it, but it comes with a big picture that you need to invest into e-recycling, electronic recycling, as well as ensure sustainable and responsible mining practices. Because if you say no to fossil fuels, you need to mine. You need more cobalt and lithium to make that work.
So I have a question from, did that answer your question?
Yes.
So I have a question from a financial perspective, right? So we want to invest in these data centers. It's a growing industry. We're going to make a lot of money. And this, I understand where you're talking about. I think you talked earlier that if we go with the digital twins, I think that's like an AI program, that's going to help us with efficiency to bring down costs. But some of this other stuff you're talking about looks like it's just straight up cost. So e-waste management, green cooling technologies, what is the cost to all of this? And what percentage of that cost is going to be offset by our increased efficiencies that we're may or may not get?
Yeah, that's
Why not just do it the old fashioned way?
Yes.
And forget about the environment. We're not here to save the world, right? We're here to make.
So yeah, that's a very nice question. I'll try to answer it in two parts. So first, talking about the financial piece of it. While we've not performed a thorough financial modeling exercise on this, but the idea would be to essentially look at the upfront investments in some of these technologies and then try. So essentially, we need to look at what the cash flow is going to be generated. So if we consider these investments, and then we calculate the cash flows that are expected from our investment over a period of time in the data centers, we can then do an NPV analysis, a net present value analysis on what would be the value of this particular investment over, let's say, a 10-year horizon. However, our estimates say that it is going to be a net positive investment because of the fact that the growth rate in this particular industry is pretty high. And therefore, year over year, growth is going to be a lot. And because it's going to be a lot, and there are barriers of entry for other small players, there's only going to be a few players in the market that will have a monopoly, meaning that there's going to be a supplier power that is going to come into play here. And so we will be able to sell at a premium. And at this point in time, if we take the example of Nvidia stock, you must have heard that it is sort of like, zoomed up to 300%. And that is because they are the only players right now who make those chips. Similarly, if we are able to get a position of being a leader by making those upfront investments, then we can also expect a higher return. So that's one part when we look at the cash flows perspective. There's also another element when it goes to the NPV analysis, which is the cost of capital. What is going to help is by investing in these energies, you're going to get down the risk of this investment lower, so that the cost of capital factor in the analysis is going to go down, which is going to lead to a higher valuation and a higher return, therefore. So I hope that answers the financial question. Now coming into the other half of the question, wherein we are here to make money, and why bother about the industry? The world. I feel that at the end of the day, first of all, this is something that aligns with the mission and the vision statements of Blackstone as an organization. But even if we were to not pay focus to that, and within this room, we want financial gain over environmental gain, we feel that there are two forces at play. First, if we don't do it, our competitors are going to do it. And it has been proven with empirical research that the world at large wants to do good. And therefore, our general partners really want to make investments into, portfolios or asset management funds, which have a lower risk over a period of time. They want to be able to hedge some of these environmental risks, because it has been again proven that if we do not diversify our portfolio into some of these solutions, then the risk that is expected and the risk to the investment is going to be higher. So that's first. And then second, I think, so the first piece is like, if I look at it from top down, it's like our general partners want to, diversify and decrease risk on their investment. And then if we look at it bottom up, then our customers or consumers, such as some of these organizations, all of them, so co-location services, who's going to be my customer? It's going to be big technology giants, right? And each of them, if you look at it, like Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, all of them have made net positive commitments by 2030. How will they achieve it if they, if the co-location services that they subscribe to is not sustainable in the nature, which means that they will not be able to meet the demand if they do not sort of invest into such green technology, and therefore we probably will lose out on that opportunity.
Okay.
And I can add on to that as well from two aspects. First one is that the risk that he correctly mentioned, that our biggest competitor as well as our potential customer, that's Amazon and Microsoft, they're heavily investing in power purchase agreement up to 70 to 80% of their entire facility usage for renewable, because they're future-proofing it for their sustainability initiatives. Because in the future, Europe is already doing that. It is just about the matter of time, when we will be regulatory pushed to be environmental friendly. The second one, why not keep doing what we have been doing, because we're making money? To give in context, the data centers, the typical purpose of a data center is to facilitate a transaction between a user, a web server, and a certain platform, and to allow that comes down to pure operations and computation. But looking at the energy consumption which goes in the data centers, up to 50%, from 30 to 50%, that's the metric that we were talking about, power usage effectiveness. That is 30 to 50% is purely goes to cooling and electricity. So if we are able to reduce that 50% to down to 10%, we are actually reducing on our operational cost. And looking at how big that number can be, if I were to take a calculated guess, my guess would be that payback period will be as low as 6 to 7 years for making these investments.
We have time for any more questions?
Go ahead.
I'll just make mine quick, but I'd like to ask, because Maria was asking a little bit more about why should we do this, and you're all mentioning all of the various reasons. One of the comments you made was that the communities are losing faith in centers, and I wonder if you could quickly explain how we would ensure that we could reach out to the communities that may be impacted by the energy usage that we're consuming.
Yeah, okay. So probably we can take a similar approach like how other industries they do it, which do not require as much person. For example, the trucking industry, the logistic industry, they make certain investments back to the community by engaging with different training programs, different schools to raise the awareness like why their operations are important. We can do the same. We can figure out like what kind of skill is required if we were to scale our data centers, and how we can impart the skill and invest into certain community engagements and upskill the personals. So that will even improve our brand image, as well as we will be giving back to the community. Second thing would be that when we are investing and upskilling ourselves using these sustainability angles like renewable energy, as well as we would be investing into energy storage. If we can think about having our renewable energy generation integrated to the grid, because there are certain regions which allow us the opportunities such as net metering, which is that if we don't need the energy, we can use the grid as an energy storage. We sell it back to the grid, we get money out of that as well as in the form of credits, and we are selling renewable energy to the community as well, which again goes back to the point that giving back to the community. So probably like figuring out more of these giving back to the community aspect, we can actually raise our awareness.
Thank you.
Probably have time for one question from folks online. Do either of y'all have a question for the team?
No, I think my questions were covered.
Okay. Okay, very good.
The
Let's
same
pause.
here, the same here. I had a question on risk, which was already covered.
Very good. Thank you both. Okay, so very good. Let's pause the simulation and let's discuss some feedback. Okay. There are a lot of things I liked. Okay. One of the things I liked your finance discussion and talking about discounted cash flow model and the related metrics. It's very strong. Okay. Second of all, you guys know your stuff. I'm a chemical engineer. I know about elements. Okay. And that's one of the things that's tricky about these type of forums is you often don't know your audience and who you're talking to in terms of their backgrounds. Whereas more typically, for example, me every week, I know who I'm talking to, and I know who they are, where they're from, and their backgrounds. But I do have a couple of things I want to ask you guys to think about. Okay, my phrase and take out the word "think about" in my term, in my discussion. Okay, I want you guys to tighten it up. Okay, you guys know your stuff. You have a lot of content. Because you have a lot of content and you have enthusiasm for your topic and you have commitment to what you're talking about, you have a lot of information. I would take probably somewhere between 60 and 80% of it. You're going into a format that's going to be 10 minutes, much shorter. You're going to be the top of the top. You've got to be tight. Okay, you got to know 2 or 3 points and be done. Okay. The other thing is, I'm going to speak for my gender, which with the exception of 3 ladies in the room, you can relate to. Men don't listen, okay? We are reading your slides. So when you give me a slide with lots of words and no pictures, it sounds like a Dilbert cartoon, but I'm dead serious. Far fewer words, more pictures. Men do not listen, okay? Our wives tell us that all the time. They are correct. Because we are reading your slides, we're visual, okay? So you're overwhelming me with content. And because you know a lot, you have to tighten it up. So give it a heavy pass when you go back and looking at it, okay? But and the other thing is when you guys started out, I felt there was a game we used to play in this state when I was growing up. You stick when we're with our friends, we would be like 8 or 9 years old. I would take my head out on a baseball bat. With the barrel of the bat on the ground, and I would spin around 10 times, or better yet, do it to my friends, or even better, my little brother. And by the time you're done spinning, you're all dizzy and you don't know what's going on. I felt a little that way at the beginning, okay? Because you jumped from boom, boom, boom to topic until I finally realized about 10 minutes in, you guys are talking about data centers and the tax and the difficulties about data centers on the environment and on the grid and so forth, okay? So again, get to your point. Make your point clear, okay? Because there's that temptation to have a lot of stuff. If you're talking too fast, it means because you have too much stuff, or because you're nervous. Avoid that temptation and slow down, okay?
That was gonna be my feedback.
Yeah, I have one last, let's see, yeah, what's my other one? there are certain words, by the way, I love what you guys have on the bottom with your agenda.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm gonna shamelessly plagiarize it.
Yeah, the agenda.
Really, really good, whoever came up with that. Anyway, the last thing is watch out on acronyms, okay? Right on the slide, you've got a number, you've got four acronyms. You only define one of them, okay? You define EIA, PUE, CUE, HVAC, okay? Also, as I mentioned, other groups. Unfortunately, three-letter acronyms are how we talk in corporate America. But when you talk to an audience who doesn't know your acronyms, I start substituting my own, or you're using an acronym that I'm familiar with from a past life, okay? There was one in a group earlier today. They used API. I worked in the farm industry for 10 years. API is active pharmaceutical ingredient. That's not what they were using API for, okay? So tighten it up a lot, okay? Know your points and stay on your points. Slow down. I had a really smart guy who taught me an intro course in business school. Presentation is about a conversation. We're here to have a conversation, okay? We're not here for me to read your slides and or for you to read them to me, okay? So engage with your audience, slow down, have confidence. You guys know your stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot. I felt a little bit, there was a little bit of a confusion at the beginning about what is it that, I mean, obviously we're talking about data centers, but what is the solution? And I think maybe you have too much solution. One thing I really actually appreciated a lot is that we're the board of directors, and you came to speak to us like business people, which I really like,
Yeah.
right? You're talking about, you know, finance and capital gains and blah, 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 blah. And you can tell that you all are business graduate students, right? Yeah. So they teach you all this stuff. But a board of directors, you know, most of the people on a board of directors, that's gonna be music to their ears that you're having those types of conversations. I think though, if you had talked more about the financial impact of your recommendation, I think that would have been a little bit more applicable. I mean, we as the board of directors, we know that there's a lot of money to be made and it's growing and on, but talking about how your recommendations are going to help us financially, really the stuff that you talked about there at the end when we asked that question, that was really key stuff that I think would have been great on here. And then I would highly recommend that you practice speaking really slowly, right? I think it's just like what Kevin said, that when you feel like I don't have a lot of time, or I have a lot of information I got to get out there, or I'm a little bit nervous, you tend to speak really fast. But really try, like if you're actually going to be in front of a board of directors, or you're in front of a group of VPs, you're going to want to purposely slow yourself down by 50%, right? Think about like putting a record on the wrong, right? On the wrong number. So like really try and practice that, because if your instinct is to go fast, it's going to be challenging for people to follow along. But you all came across as extremely professional and very good handoff and working together. So great presentation.
I want to make sure we get to the team up there. So I will just add one other point, which was, I felt like you were way more comfortable and gave actually much clearer answers to the questions at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think the answers that you gave to the questions at the end, I you feel were some of the best content, at least for me, to absorb and address, particularly the question that you asked about defining the ethical issue. That answer was very clear. And you were very confident and very comfortable with that. So kind of think about maybe moving some of those answers up into your presentation. I want to get to the folks up there.
Thank you. Yeah, how about feedback from folks online?
Well, I think you did a wonderful job. I mean, you clearly know your stuff, and this was so detailed. I agree. The agenda at the bottom was really helpful in just helping to carry the audience through and kind of situate when it was just a lot of information at some points. You guys did a real deep dive on the privacy laws, which was fantastic. I think carrying through on this slide in terms of like now we're talking about environmental impact assessments and other things, just making sure the linkages are more clear and why I should care about the privacy laws now that I'm on your recommendations. And I think maybe popping it up a level at more general and then maybe going into more detail in response to questions might help to kind of facilitate that. But overall, great job. You definitely know what you're talking about here.
Thank you.
Yeah, really quickly, that was good but overwhelming. I do agree with other judges on that. You need to simplify, summarize, and cut. So I would say on the slides, you should leave like 1/4 or 1/3 of what you have. And the things that I specifically liked, not to finish on a negative note, I really liked the photo, how you presented the team at the very beginning of the presentation. I thought it was a very good thing to do, and I haven't seen it today. I really like the research into the legal privacy laws and other legislation, GDPR specifically. I appreciated that. The US EU comparison, although it did have a lot of excessive details, like on a level of idea, I thought it was really good. The legislation tracker map, I thought it was a very good idea to present it like this. But overall, yeah, it was a bit too much. Otherwise, well done. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Any questions you all have for us?
Not from end.
But I mean, I personally want to appreciate for all the feedback that you've provided, because I think it's going to help us do better, not just for the competition, but once we sort of go and start presenting, you know, in the industry, to have that perspective. I guess in a way, sometimes, you know, when you get attached to a topic and then you start researching, then it becomes very difficult to kill your own baby, as they say in consulting. So
It becomes second nature.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? When it's so hard because you have to put yourself in the shoes of the audience that you're talking to. And you go out and do research and you're thinking of a way of presenting this a step by step. And perhaps even the guidelines around IBECC, you know, they kind of lay out a step by step. But you all are going out into the real world. You are going to be presenting to people. And I have learned from one particular deputy CEO, GM at my company, that he will give you 5 minutes to tell him bottom line upfront, what's your problem and what's your solution? And you give him that 5 minutes, and then he's then going to say, oh, what about this? What about that? Have you thought about that? Right? So I would just take that bluff, we all call it bluff, bottom line up front when you're going into the real world. It's very different from IBECC because of course, you know, we give you 20 minutes, we want financial and ethical, but in the real world, when you're going out there, short, concise, bottom line up front, then give a little bit more information and then say, what are your questions? I mean,
That's awesome. I used to have a boss said to me all the time, Kevin, SSA buddy. He didn't say buddy. Simplify, streamline, align on your points, you know, boom, boom, boom. Okay.
Right.
And the other thing is we don't do here is we don't interrupt you. I've given presentations where I don't even get a breath in. I've already been interrupted.
Yeah.
Just because you're already criticizing my my slide or something else. So it can feel like a bit like a contact sport sometimes when you go in front of a group. But this is the hardest one to do when your presentation is behind you, you don't know your audience, you know, and you've got to talk with your audience sitting down, you're standing up. I hate presenting in that format. You guys did a really good job with it, and you know your stuff. Simplify, streamline, align. These ladies and the folks online, great feedback. Thank you very much. good luck going forward and good luck in your corporate careers.
Thank you so
Are
much.
you all close to graduation?
Yeah.
The three
next
of us
week.
are graduating next Friday.
Next
Okay.
Friday.
Wow.
Year next year.
And then it's your year next year, yeah, and you already
Congratulations.
have roles lined up,
I'm sorry, jobs.
yeah.
He's going to be working in Mackenzie. The both of us are still
It's a
looking for a
question.
job.
And I'm sorry, where did,
Both of us are looking for a job right
oh, well, best of luck,
Thank you.
best of luck,
Absolutely.
yeah, and you all are very, very, very impressive,
now. Thanks.
Very.
Thank you so much.
very.
Thank you for all the feedback.
Okay, so, did you give them the message they're supposed to go take a picture?
Yes. Photo.
Yeah.
You have to get your photo
Photo.
taken back where registration is.
Like a registration for an official photo.
Team.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your evening.
Very much. Very nice to meet you.